Oh, I love seeing all these people jumping on. If you are in a position to be able to turn your cameras, we would love to see your faces, especially as we go into the breakout rooms. We'd love towards the end of this call if you'd be able to participate. If at all possible, we'd love for you to change your name on the screen to be your first name and then your company name or whatever industry you are in so that we can put you in the right breakout group whenever we are getting ready to wrap up the call. Okay.
Oh, I have to rephrase this before we start. It's not stars in the universe. It's stars in the Milky Way.
Okay. Well, then
See, I
they
would have
probably
been right
do know that.
otherwise.
I still would have said stars.
I would too. I would too.
That still surprises me, but that's
a little bit.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That makes more sense for sure.
Rudy's always skeptical because we tend to like to try to pull a fast one on Rudy whenever we can. Typically with any like, what word did you learn today? Runt.
Oh,
word
right.
runt.
Gosh.
You said runt, and I was like, runt?
No idea.
All right. Well, Jonathan, if you'll stop sharing the sound there, I can go ahead and share my screen.
You know what? I'm gonna not let you do that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I found it. There you go.
Sounds good. All right. Good deal. Well, folks, we'll get going here. There's going to be some people popping in. As Nicole said, please, 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 it helps tremendously if you will rename yourself as best you know how. You can click your face. That way we can get a general sense of what industry you're in and put you in the right rooms for the breakout and get you with some of the similar people week to week. So we got some good stuff to talk about today. I know you guys have seen the emails coming out. I'm going to be the one taking us through, but as always, want to start off with some wins. What good things have happened this week? Let's hear them. Anything related to the call last week about the one sheet, knowing your unique value and being able to utilize that in your sales opportunities?
We passed the century mark. We have over 100 five-star reviews, or we have a 4.8 record now. So got over 100. That was a goal. So thank you.
Hey,
Come on, Darren. That's what I'm talking about.
you know, those are hard to get.
Who else on this call is past the 100 mark? There we go. We got Bobby. You know, we call him Proud Bobby. No, I'm just kidding. I'm scrolling through to see if there's hands risen. No. Okay. Well, that's always good. That's a huge
Phil
number.
raised his hand. 100.
Come on, Phil. You get them.
Love that. Okay. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any wins, then I do. So into our talk today, we're going to be talking about what managing the business from the top can look like, really reducing the chaos. And one of the guys that I'm really proud of that's been doing this well recently is Dream Plumbing, Brandon Johnson. I don't know if he was in when we started. Brandon, are you here now? Maybe not. Okay. Well, brand new guy. I don't know if you guys were in there for the first call of the year, but he talked about how he's like, you know what? I'm just going to commit to it, and I'm going to make my Redmond growth meetings because I haven't been as much as I want to. And in the month of January, I could testify Brandon did, and we got the progress that we were looking for. Some business organization structure is the main thing, and we did the things that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. We established 2 rocks in his schedule. That's something that we're going to be doing in the breakout rooms too. We've now done more. We've built onto this, but his wife commented to him and said that she noticed a difference in the way he was running the business. And what he told me from himself was, hey, I actually feel like I'm running a business more than running calls all day long. Now that I've got this kind of routine or rhythm going on. And so huge win for him, and we're continuing to grow from that. It's a steps in the process, but super excited that once we put these things into place, you guys will feel the reduction of chaos and the improvement in your management of your business from doing the stuff we'll talk about today. So that's my win to get us started here, and we'll get rolling. So
I
we're gonna
know.
talk-
I saw Elijah with Top Fence just jumped on the call. I'm gonna pick on him because I know that he has a win that he wants to share, or that I'm
I was hoping
asking
I
for
was
him
gonna
to share.
slide by. I was hoping I was gonna slide under the radar, but
No.
I recently got approved with Google Local Services, and I've got 12 leads. I have booked 8 of them for a estimate, and I've closed 3 of them. So, getting a little momentum.
Yes. And that's just the
Rock on.
tip of the, like, I think it was end of last month, like probably last week of the month.
Maybe 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
just got active. So yeah, it's starting to move a little.
Well, I appreciate you sharing, and I'm just so excited to see, what all comes from it.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, really proud for you there, Elijah. Good stuff coming down the pipeline. So any other wins before I move forward? Okay, sweet. So we're going to get into killing the chaos in your business, something that every business owner feels. What does that look like? How do we do it? Can we do it? And in the breakout rooms, we're going to actually make that happen. And I want everyone to genuinely leave with at least 2 rocks established in your schedule. And you'll understand what that means here in a minute if you don't already. But let's get rolling. I know that saying that we can eliminate chaos in your business for good is a massive claim, but I really do believe this. If we can implement the stuff we're going to talk about today, it sets you up to scale really well. Something that I tell business organization boost clients whenever they come in with us is that they're in a way ahead of the game because they already recognize that this is what feeds everything else going on in their business. Everything else. Ultimately, every business needs this kind of organization structure pathway for the business owner because it sets you up to scale really well and to grow your business without growing your stress. In fact, and sometimes it kind of reduces things. Not normally one to plug books here, but I actually read this book about this time last year. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by Mark Comer. Some of you may have anybody heard of this book? Yes, no? Okay. Honestly, I like a lot of what it says, but one of the things that I'll take from it is, and this is so needed for entrepreneurs. So for all the people here, it's not about doing the most things. It's about doing the least amount of the best things, because activity does not always equal productivity. Activity does not always equal productivity. So that's my little book plug, but would recommend that you guys check that out if you so desire. So let's get into the topic here. So you guys are all owners of a business. You've done something amazing and created something that didn't exist before you were doing it. Right? You saw a need, you took that need on. As a small business owner, and that's any business that's making less than 25 million a year, as a small business owner, your personal life and your business are very intimately intertwined. And I know you guys feel this. So we have to realize that everything connects to everything else. That's why I put this Leo da Vinci quote in here. Now, he's an artist and a painter, but I like what he said, that it's true. Everything connects to everything else. Your personal life is so intimately connected to your business. Your business and why you went into it is meant to gratify and satisfy your life goals, not dictate them. If you're feeling like you can only do so much because your business is asking too much of you, then we need to reevaluate, what are we doing this whole thing for? All right? Does that resonate with anybody? Okay. One of the things that we run into a lot with business owners is that there's a lot of emotional battles that are really subtle and under the scenes or behind the scenes. And I want to give you guys the ability to win those emotional battles quicker. where you can say yes or no to the things that matter the most. Because ultimately, other people will command your time if you don't. If you don't take your schedule by the horns, someone else is going to. And that's where this all starts from. So an idea I want to give to you is that businesses are built in discretionary time, which means we have to create that. They're simply just maintained by doing tasks and managing burning fires. Okay. Your business is not going to look kind of pretty in the process. This is where the hard work really begins, because this is not easy at first. It's going to look kind of like launching a rocket into space, but you're building it at the same time. That's kind of what entrepreneurialism is you're doing the thing while you're trying to build the thing at the same time. The important thing about this meeting and the stuff we're going to talk about here in a second is that we step out of the thick of the week and kind of separate, evaluate. We start here to build the future of your business. And that's the thing that usually gets forgotten in just managing the here and now. We forget about caring for the future. So 2 tools that I'm going to go into here is the Business Rocks and something called the Eisenhower Matrix. The first thing, the Eisenhower Matrix, is about personal time prioritization and time management. The second thing about Business Rocks is a little bit of both, personal stuff and also your business. So let's get into it here. The Eisenhower Matrix is really simple for you to take the task that people come into your life with and say, hey, this is what I need from you right now. Every single person in your life is going to communicate the thing that they're bringing to you as the most important, the most urgent thing that you need to focus on right now. But most of the time, that's not the case. So the way that this works is basically asking 2 questions every time something comes across your table, comes across your plate. How important is this and how urgent is it? And based on those answers, we can figure out what to do with it in our time. So the first quadrant here is stuff that's both important and that's urgent. Usually this is like a crisis. And honestly, most things, before we start working on this stuff, most things end up in this quadrant by default, because that's what everybody communicates them as. They're saying, hey, my thing is the most important. But most of the time, it's not a crisis. If you were to handle this 15 minutes later, 30 minutes later, would the world fall apart? Probably not, right? So this is a crisis mode quadrant. We want to reduce the amount of things that come in here. Only the most important things ever happen here. This is stuff that has to be done right now, or otherwise we can't do it later. There's no alternative, right? The next thing to ask is if it's important, but maybe it's not urgent. So most of the things that you guys are managing as business owners would fall into this category, except things get overwhelmed by the small things. We get caught up in the thick of the little things going on in our life, right? If we priorly to the moment planned out when we were going to do something, it wouldn't become quite as urgent. It would be something that could have been taken care of ahead of time, done a little bit more calmly, and then figured out. So what we want to do with quadrant 2 stuff is schedule it out. Plan out when you're going to do something, give it a space or a time in your week. Now let's get into the second row here. The not important.
Can you give some examples, Bryce?
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about this in the Business Rock schedule, but future planning things would be stuff like sales or putting together estimates. If you give yourself a time and a place for coming up with those estimates, you're going to be able to get them done on time consistently. Or collections. If you know that you're going to have to reach out to these people to get this money, right? It only becomes urgent whenever we put it off. But if we make a time for it, we don't have to worry about it. It's got a space to be coming back around every single week. So that'd be stuff that I would schedule out. Okay. Thanks for asking that question, Nicole. Next quadrant here is quadrant 3. This is stuff that we want to delegate. So it's being communicated and it actually is urgent, something that needs to happen pretty soon, but does it need your attention specifically as the business owner? Utilize your team, empower your team, right? If it's not important, but it is urgent, here's a cheat code. I want to have you guys default not to assume anything. If someone wants something from you, they should specifically, explicitly clarify what they're wanting from you so that you can deliver. But oftentimes as they're clarifying, you can both realize that they could do it for themselves. Here's a cheat code. Hey, I have help for you on this, but first, what have you already tried? Or what do you think that we should do? You have to fight the urge to default into jumping into action. You guys are entrepreneurs, which I equate to being superheroes. You guys all have your superhero cape where I see a need, someone needs help, I can fix this, I'm gonna do it. But instead stop and don't answer the question first, respond with a question. Hey, I've got help for you. What have you tried already? Or what do you think we should do? So quadrant 3, not important, but still urgent things that you can enable your team to do independent decision making. Cool.
Huge. What I love about quadrant 3 here is that not only you're saving yourself time and empowering your team, but you're able to really train your team, set boundaries, be specific. Here are things that you can do. By the way, next time you have this question, this is something you can, I empower you to take care of without even having to ask me next time. This delegation is really huge. So please take that to heart.
Yeah, that's true. This is also getting into the idea about saying no to things. It's actually really hard to say no. How many of you guys would say that you struggle with saying no to some of the things that come across your plate? This kind of superhero mentality. Okay, be honest. Okay, yeah, it's true, and it can look really sneaky. So don't tune me out here when you say, "Oh, it's not hard for me to say no." Actually, it can be pretty sneaky as far as what you're saying no to or how you're saying no. When you say yes to one thing, that means saying no to 1,000 others. I think Steve Jobs said once that he's just as proud of the things that they haven't done as the things that they have done. Because when you choose to do something or choose not to do something, it makes a significant impact. So being able to say no in a way is, hey, I believe that you can do this, kind of delegate that task. And this gets into the 4th quadrant too, which is stuff that's not important, nor is it urgent. People can come to you all the time with stuff that's just really irrelevant. Why did you even ask me about this? You can deflect it kind of in a good way. We want to delete these kind of tasks just by simply saying, hey, that doesn't really align with where we're headed right now in the business. Just honestly, I'm not going to put time to that. If you want to, you can, unless it is taken away from your core responsibility. So this is the Eisenhower matrix. I know I took more time to explain it, but it's really very simple. How important is this? How urgent is it? And based on that, I'm going to put it in these other quadrants. Because everybody's going to try to put their stuff for me in quadrant 1. But most of the time, it shouldn't actually go there. There's no need for it to actually go there. Either you can schedule a time for it later, you can have somebody, even the person that suggested it, do it themselves, or just ultimately say, that doesn't align with my long-term goals, what I'm going for here. Any thoughts, questions about that?
One comment that I want to
Yeah.
make is a lot of us live in quadrant 1 all the time. Who here feels like their whole schedule, their whole day is depicted by burning fires? The next person who calls, the next text message I get, the next employee that calls me. And so we live in quadrant 1 primarily because those are the things that are yelling at us. It's the angry customer. It's the negative review that we just got. It's the employee that's upset. It's the materials that are back ordered. You know, it's these things that are yelling at us. They're yelling for our attention. We know that this is going to happen. We can schedule that into our day so that our whole day doesn't get depicted by them. If you have an office manager, have your office manager screen all of your calls and then have a set meeting with them once a day where they're telling you who you need to follow up with. It gives you an opportunity, instead of just reacting and picking up that phone or making that call, it gives you an opportunity to decompress and say, okay, is this something that really needs my attention? Is this something that I should handle tomorrow, put in my schedule? You know, one thing that my boss, Robert Redmond, would always say to me when I would interrupt his day with got a minute meetings is he would say, hey, Nicole, right now it's 8:30 a.m. Is this problem really going to change if we address it at 11 a.m. at our scheduled time instead of 8:30 a.m.? And the answer is literally always, you know, no. It doesn't need to be addressed right now. I want you to have that mindset. You know, a lot of things aren't actually important. They don't belong in quadrant 1. They're just yelling at us, so it makes it seem like they're important. Schedule those.
Yeah, that is super valuable. Another way that I've heard that phrasing too is we can't always control how we react. Our reactions are natural. It's kind of our first inclination, but we do control the way we respond. The more we can kind of maintain control of your life and your schedule. Again, if you don't define what your schedule and time is going to look like, someone else is always going to do it for you, or life is just going to do it for you. And so we have to take your schedule by the horns. You have to take your schedule by the horns and start saying no to, okay, this is good, but not the most important thing. Again, it's not about doing the most, it's about doing the least best activities. Okay, here's a thought. Have anybody in here heard of the Big Rocks demonstration? Does that ring any bells? I know some of the people I work with have probably heard about this. Okay, there's not a good video really out there to really explain this, but I did find this one from the Covey Group or Covey Institute back from the 90s. I think they used to be like a Fortune 50 leadership company. It's actually pretty succinct, but essentially it goes like this. First, in order, you have a fixed container, right? And you're given some rocks, some pebbles, and some sand in order to fill up that container. What matters is how you do it, the order in which you do it. Because if you just put in the pebbles or the sand, you're not going to be able to fit all the big rocks. So what you have to do is put in the big rocks first, establish what's going to get done no matter what. Then the more minor tasks that are important, maybe not so urgent, fill in the spots all around. And then ultimately after that, you put in the sand, leisure stuff like that. And there's always room for coffee with a friend. But that's really ultimately what it is about. Everybody has a fixed amount of time. Some people are able to achieve more than others, and we wonder why. Well, it's because they prioritize differently than we do. Instead of doing the small things first, they do the big things first. So a question I have for you guys is have you ever considered your week as a whole rather than what you can do each day? Is that a new thought to anybody? Like considering your week overall rather than what am I going to do each day? It's okay if it is. It was for me before getting to work at Redmond Growth. I really did think about, all right, what am I going to do today? What's going to be my tasks? How am I going to get stuff done? What's screaming at me? We don't want each day to be like a box of chocolates. We want to know what we're going to get. We want to know predictability, and we can do that. And my argument here is that we do that for a week at a time. If you give stuff a place, it has a spot to go. And if you put the big things first, there's room for everything else. It's just a physical representation. It's not true just in theory. This is true physically as well. if you actually were to do this, get some big rocks outside. You could have your kids do it tonight if you wanted. Hey, fill this jar with some rocks and some sand. I want you to fill it this much, and they'll get frustrated, just like you get frustrated with your own life, with all of the time things that you have to put in there. So it's true physically, it's also true in theory. So what are the rocks? This is a tool that I want to have us use in the breakout rooms here in just a minute. We've talked about this before in the past, but we really do believe that you can manage their business through 5 meetings. And those 5 main meetings are what are listed here up at the top. If you can establish these rocks in your schedule, you have to carve out the time now. I know that this is really hard, but you have to carve out the time now. And eventually you will get to the place where these might be the only times that you spend in the business, right? Ultimately, if you guys want to have a business that functions on its own, this is the way to that goal. By having set points in your week where you're going to do certain tasks or activities. So here's the rocks that we want to implement into your business. It's having a time for accounting and finance review, looking at your numbers. What money came in, what money came out, what money should come in, what money is going to go out in accounts payable, what money is owed to us that we haven't collected on, accounts receivable. Does anybody have a regular financial review time set in their week at the moment? Anybody that does this already? If so, can you unmute and kind of talk about what that's been? How has that helped you? What has that done for you?
For me, about the stress, because you don't have to stress. Somebody, I don't know who said it, but they say you don't have to worry about your finances all week, all day long. If you don't deal with it, so you have a certain, like I do on Thursdays when I do it. So then now I can worry about my finances right now and not be stressing tomorrow about it or yesterday about it and thinking about it all the time. So I just have time to like deal with it, and then put it out, and then I'm done. I can move on,
Yeah, that's exactly it. Most of you guys, if I was to wager, most of us are in the habit of just kind of checking the bank account pretty regularly. Hey, how much money do I have right now? I got to make an expense here. How much money's in there? Did I collect from this guy? Oh shoot, now I'm adding 5, 6, 7, 8 different tasks that I have to do right now. I did this with a guy a couple of weeks ago, and it's a husband-wife team. And they said that this was actually, he went so far as to say this was something that, not that their marriage was on the rocks, but that this saved their marriage because of exactly what Bobby was talking about, that you worry about it so much throughout the week and it causes so much stress and strife. If instead you set aside a time for it, you don't have to worry about it. It's going to come back around every week. A week isn't going to go by that you're not going to think about or touch your finances. It'll still be there. Just like it was there last week, it'll still be there next week and the week after and the week after. That's one of the main first rocks is accounting and finance. The second thing is team meetings and updates. If you're not currently meeting with your team, and I know that we're covering a broad topic here, but I really do see this as really the linchpin for a lot of what's going on in dysfunctional business or really any business, even if it's not dysfunctional. This can always help. So we have group calls on each of these topics if you wanted to go back and get more in depth on them. But team meetings and updates, having a regular feedback loop reduces the burning fires that you're going to get. Just like Nicole said with her example with Robert earlier, right? Hey, it's 8:30 a.m. If we talk about this at 11 a.m., our scheduled time, is it going to change the outcome? No? Okay. Well, let's keep ourselves on task here, and then we'll talk about that then. I've said this before, and I'll say it again because I think it makes a lot of sense. If the only way for your team to communicate issues to you is by blowing up your phone, that is what they're going to do. We have to create an alternative, give them predictability with accountability and even communication, that they know that they can have their issues addressed. Cool. The third one is sales and estimating. Now, depending on your role in the business, you may not need to do this directly. Maybe you don't have to budget time to actually do your estimates. You have a team for that. Then instead, this is a meeting with that team. how are you holding them accountable to their numbers, their metrics? Or if it is you, setting aside a time for you to actually produce those estimates on a regular basis instead of anytime you can, kind of here and there, and then you find yourself with an estimate that fell through the cracks for 2 weeks that's then emailed you again, hey, any progress on this? That's a big, big rock. The lifeblood of your business is sales. And then here with recruiting and training, we want to set this rock because ultimately in the future, when you're scaled pretty well out of your business, you just need to keep your business running. You need to keep people in trucks. You need to keep people to fill the leads that all your marketing is producing on a regular basis. So setting aside time to manage Indeed or to interview candidates or to go to an event and find new opportunities for people to know about your company and become involved. Or you can use this to actually train your team. If you have team meetings that are happening on a regular basis, we want to do ongoing investment. That's going to get you a team that really produces well over time. And then the last piece here is this process creation and checklist creation. This is the future of your business. The future of your business. Again, we talked about earlier, businesses are built in discretionary time. We have to create that discretionary time. This is part of that. If you think about, if we were to do this, just with this rock in particular, if you sit down and try to get what's on your head on paper once a week for an hour for the next month, that's 4 hours of time that you've spent trying to put your brain on paper to develop the future of your business. That may or may not be happening at all. Even if that happens once a week and it's not finished every time, you could have a crazy difference in your business after a month of just implementing this. And then of course, shamelessly going to plug Redmond Growth Consulting. That's what this part of what we do is for too. When we have our meetings with you, we're looking at the future of your business. We're trying to build it into something better than it has been. So have your Redmond Growth meeting as a rock in your calendar, because even in the weeks that you're not meeting with your coach, you can use that hour that's already set aside to do the action items that your coach had assigned, to be able to get the progress every single week going into your future. So I know I covered that kind of broadly. We'll have more time to talk about this in the group, in the breakout rooms. But I want to show you guys this as an example. We're not trying to create a to-do list that's completely full with all of this. All we're trying to establish is the big main rocks that need to happen in your business, and then everything else falls in around it. So Nicole asked this earlier. How many of you feel like it's just burning fires all the time? That is why we created this, is because we can see clearly there's time for burning fires. In fact, there's more time for burning fires than all this other stuff. But there's also space for these important things that are going to develop the future of your business and get you to the goals that you set for yourself. This is huge. This is huge. There's time for it all. We just have to make the time for what matters. Cool. Okay. Let me get this back. Okay. So we talked about the rocks: accounting and finance, team meetings and updates, sales and estimating, recruiting and training, future prep with the process checklist creation, and then of course, Redmond Growth. So I have kind of an oddball question here, but it relates to all that we've been talking about. What was your first car? If anyone can give me a quick answer here. What do you have for your first car?
72 Chevy Nova.
Okay, I heard a Cutlass, a 72 Nova.
Geostorm.
A Geostorm. Man, you guys drove some awesome cars. That rocks.
Mustang and Honda in the chat.
Awesome. Well,
Toyota
I'm gonna
Avalon.
Toyota Avalon. Okay, well, I'm gonna shamelessly plug for myself here. I don't get to talk about this very often, but my first car was a '53 Chevy pickup.
Yeah.
Right here. Darkwing Duck the truck. Classic. I had to sell it, unfortunately, whenever I went to college, but that's just because it couldn't make the 4-hour drive. But I love that truck. I learned so much from it, life skills, me and my dad putting it back together. But the reason I bring this up, guys, is because of this idea of multitasking that a lot of us struggle with. Psychology says that multitasking is not real. It does not exist. What's really happening is we're changing between tasks really, really fast. Even people that appear to be good multitaskers are changing between tasks really, really fast. What psychology tells us is true about our brains is that our brains work like a stick shift car. Those of you that know how to drive stick shift know what I'm talking about. When you push in the clutch, you disengage the drivetrain. You're not moving forward at that moment. If you keep the clutch pushed in, you're just going to coast and eventually come to a stop. Every time you're changing tasks, you are disengaging the drivetrain. You're no longer making progress until you get in the gear of something else. And if you keep going back and forth, you keep following and being tugged around by these urgent, important tasks, and you're not setting the time ahead, you're going to be stuck eventually. And that's maybe where some of you are. Personal story that taught me a lot about my personal capacity and this whole idea of setting aside time for certain tasks. You will be more productive when you do just one thing for a set amount of time than you will be if you try to do everything all at once. We love entrepreneurs in that you want to take on the whole world, but just don't do it all at once. Whenever I first started coaching at Redmond Growth, we were making outbound calls at the time. And so everybody started in sales, which I didn't know on my first day. That was a big surprise to me, actually, was that I did my orientation for an hour and they said, okay, hop on the phones. I said, awesome. Is it a client? No, you're making outbound calls. What? Anyways, so everyone starts in sales because we want to learn, can you grind the way that the people you're going to be coaching can grind? Can you make things happen? Can you create something? As I was taking on clients and starting to work with business owners, my time started to get filled up with coaching meetings, but I also still was obligated as a sales member to hit my metrics, to hit my numbers. So a regular sales team member was expected to make 200 outbound calls in a day. As I was ramping up with coaching and taking clients until I got to a full client load at the time, which was about 20, I was expected to make 50 calls every hour that I wasn't in a client meeting. That sounds unreal. If you do the math, that means if I had just 4 hours, I would do as much work as a full-time sales team member. But I was able to do it. And the only reason why is because I blocked out my time and I wasn't trying to multitask. I was laser focused on the one thing and I got so much done in that time. It taught me my capacity. And so that's what we're doing with these rocks. That's why I bring this up, is that your capacity, you may feel like you're at your wit's end or at the very end of your rope, but if we carve out these times, you're going to be amazed by the amount of capacity you truly have and that your team has by prioritizing tasks and being able to say no to stuff and scheduling out your future big important things that need to happen in your business. If you think that meetings won't work for your business and that meetings with yourself are irrelevant, think again, because these rocks truly, to me, are the linchpin for what you're wanting if you want a business that's going to be self-sustaining. This is the way forward. So that's my piece. I've said what I will. Oh, I lied. So I told my own story. Here's a couple of examples of people that I've done this with and that we've done this with and what they've said, just so that you believe it. EnviroDry. Hey, I may not say it every day, but I tell my wife most nights, thank God for Redmond, built an idea schedule. This rocks. Been keeping it, feeling stress-free, getting home early 2 nights a week. He literally told me, hey, scheduling the week out has quite literally made my perception of the week slow down. If you feel like things are just out of control and they're always ahead of you, this is the way forward. McCreary Healthy Homes. After defining a schedule with his office person, he's been the most productive in that week, had the most capacity, got the most done. This is the way forward. Roofing and Siding Smiths. I finally have more time to do ministry stuff. Only 32 hours scheduled in my calendar. but I'm making more money and still earning profits. This is the way forward. Oh, hang on. Blessings Hardwood Flooring. Told him to schedule a weekly time to follow up with leads. He did it last Friday. They closed 2 deals because of it. This affects all sides of your business, not just how you feel about things, but how are you closing on deals? How are you managing your team? How are you managing your finances? This is the way forward. So I lied a second ago, but I mean it now. I've said my piece. So I'll let Jonathan take us into breakout rooms and we'll actually put this into practice. Establish your rocks, people.
We are taking applicants for the This Is the Way special exclusive club. Just email Bryce and we can go from there. Bryce, I never chatted you, but that's 4 for you. One
You didn't
second.
chat me
Okay.
either, Rudy.
I think it's all good. We're good.